Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the How to Become a Visualization Guru in Webi, brought to you by the 360 Suite and of course SAP. And today, go ahead and move to the next slide. We would like to thank you for joining, and we are so fortunate to be joined by Pascal Gaulin, product expert, part of the Webi development team as a product expert, and he is going to be sharing with us how to become a visualization guru in Webi. All right. Pascal, can you take us forward?
Yes. Hi, everybody. So, yes, my name is Pascal Gaulin. I'm part of the Webi product team in Paris. And so I'm going to present you these slides. So on the Webi visualizations. Okay. Maybe I should go through all these slides, unless Nathan, you want to say something about them? Those are not my slides.
Yeah, yeah. We just like to here at the 360 Suite. We are huge fans of the web intelligence and really business objects as a whole. But just a few fun facts. So the #1 reporting tool in the BI market today is still web intelligence. Cover over 70% of the Fortune 100, or over 20,000 customers. And more fun facts, right? Self-service tool, interact with existing Webi documents or even create them yourselves. And there is no image. Just one moment. Why is there no image?
There is. I see Webi facts, Nathan.
Yeah, I see it as well.
I can see the image.
Yeah, I can see the image as well. If you're out as an attendee, just want to make sure, working here. Okay, good. I can see it. Good. Okay, good. Excellent. I see people saying that they can see it, so I'm not sure. You might want to drop out and come back. But thank you. Jignesh, good to see you. Excellent. So we'll keep going, and thank you. That's actually one of the big things that I want to make sure that we talk about here is that we want this to be interactive. There's a question panel or a question area in the panel on the right-hand side of GoToWebinar. Feel free to interact. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end. All right, Pascal, keep us moving here. Let's get into some meat. There we are. So again, my name's Nathan Crook. I'm on the right, and Lisa Neal is also here. She's going to be working the polls, and of course, our esteemed guest, Pascal. Pascal, please feel free to take us into the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Just moving forward. All right. Okay, so during this presentation, I will go through 4 sections, actually four parts of the presentation. First of all, I'll talk a bit about the chart engine in Webi, what it is exactly, where it's coming from. Then I will show you the latest developments we've done with this chart engine since Webi 4.2. Then we'll go into some customization settings for the charts which sometimes are not very well known. And then I will show you some example of some charts that you can build using those settings, as well as the formula language. Then we'll end up with the key points to take home and questions. Okay, so let's start with the CVOM chart engine first. Okay, sorry, the control is a bit slow on my side, so I need, okay. So CVOM. CVOM is the name of the chart engine we're using in Webi. CVOM stands for Common Visualization Object Model. It was actually a library which was developed about 10 years ago for Business Objects Explorer, and then which became a component shared between different products of our BI suites, such as Web Intelligence, Crystal Reports, and then Lumira. It contains a chart library, the actual charts you're seeing in the Webi report, but also a Java server, so on the server side, which is used essentially for publishing and exporting the charts, and then several viewers. The very first one was a Flash viewer because it was for Business Objects Explorer, but then after that, a Java viewer was developed, especially for Web Intelligence, an HTML viewer as well, and more recently an HTML5 viewer for the Web Intelligence interactive client. The chart engine and the charts, generally speaking, in Webi are fully interactive, and thanks to the Java server component, it's got a bitmap output which can be used when printing or exporting to PDF or Excel. The charts, the data feeding for the charts works like with cross table. That means it's got two axes, vertical or horizontal axis for a table, but here we're talking about a category axis and usually a color axis. The reason why it's like a cross table, it's because in Web Intelligence in particular, you can change a chart into a table or the other way around, a table into a chart. So we need to keep this similarity in terms of architecture between the tables and the charts and make sure that we can convert one into another. Of course, it can support several dimensions on each of these axes, just like what you can do on a cross table. And it can use multiple measures into the plot area. It can even use the measure names as categories, and this is what you can see on the right-hand side here. This is a column chart where the measure are actually used to populate the chart, the margin and the sales revenue. Customization settings, there are literally dozens of them, and it's fully dynamic, meaning it depends on the type of the chart and its data feeding. Going to the next slide. I should actually prepare my action a few seconds before. Right. I think we went too fast on that. So yeah, the settings, as I said, there are lots of the settings available for the Webi charts, and they're defined into categories. Those categories are more or less fixed. There's one category for the area display, so it's global settings for the charts, some measure properties, settings for the data values, which are the little values you can see on the charts on each data point or on the columns, on the bars, where you can define the font, the color, the location of those data values, palette and style, where you can obviously define the color palettes, the data ranges, and all the special effects you can add on the chart. There's a category dedicated to the legend, another one for the category axis and the value axis, and then finally on the plot area where you have specific settings for bubble size, spacing, bar width, color of the sea in case of a geomap, etc. The benefit of defining these categories, it's fully automatic. So meaning that every time we add a new chart into the library, then automatically the settings we defined for this new chart will be automatically populated into the right category, and we don't have to redo the user interface for the settings again and again. The charts are really standard report elements into Webi. They can be used like any table in a report. They can be. You can filter the content of the chart. You can rank it or sort it. You can define borders, background to a chart. You can drill into a chart. You can hide a chart under some conditions that you define yourself. You can use a chart to filter the content of another report element, such as a table or another chart somewhere in your document. And you can save a chart as a shared element and then reuse it into some other document. Shared elements is a feature available since 4.2. You can comment a chart. Again, commentary is a feature available since 4.2. And you can print or export a chart thanks to the Java server available for the charts.
So this brings us to our very first poll. And we'd love to know which Business Objects version you are using today. Got a couple choices here. There are people out there still on the XIR3, but you got 4.0, 4.1, 4.2 with SP2, SP3, or 4.2 with SP4, SP5. So we'll give you a couple seconds here to get your responses. It looks like we've got everybody here. We'll close this one out and share the responses. So we've got maybe one or two people out there still on XI3 and older, but the majority of you have moved up to SP4, SP5. But still some of you lingering around on 4.1 as well. So there'll be a couple more polls after this one. Next up will be Pascal. We'd love to hear about the latest chart developments and improvements.
Thank you, Lisa. So going to the next part of the presentation. So the latest development in Webi regarding charts. So I'm going to present you the latest development in 4.2. Oh, I went too fast again. Sorry. I need to go back. Here we are. Okay, first improvement in 4.2 in the GA version, the first version of 4.2 was the addition of GeoMap in the chart engine. The GeoMap, something we took from the Business Objects Explorer and Lumira. So we got a worldwide geographical coverage in terms of geomaps. We offer 4 levels into Webi, going from country to city level. We have all cities over 100,000 inhabitants around the world, and even more for the United States, where we have all cities available. We offer all the names, the location names into multiple languages, and good benefit of it is that it's available offline. You don't need an internet connection to connect to some external server. So it's really built into the CVOM chart engine. So it's available whenever you need it. You don't need an internet connection to use it. So because of the addition of geomaps, we created new settings really dedicated to the geomap that you can find specifically in the plot area category, such as the use manual range, which allows you to define the actual region of the world that you want to see into your geomap. It's otherwise fully automatic, but you can decide yourself which region you want to show. You can decide to show different boundaries of the parents, or the neighbors of the regions where you have data. You can define the color of the sea, the color of the ground, and that sort of thing. We've got three kinds of geomaps available in Webi. The first one you saw just before was the one called choropleth. Then we have also a bubble on geomaps and pie charts using a Sagan measure to draw the size of the pie sectors. Other little improvements in folder 2 SP3, the ability to reverse the legend order so that it matches the order of the stack in the stack column chart. So this way it's easier for you to read a stacked column chart. We've added also a new color palette, a pastel color palette. Then in folder 2 SP4, we added the new charts, a bunch of new charts, gauge charts. First of all, that you can see here, we have two types of gauge charts, linear or circular. With both of these charts, you can define a target, and they're measure-based coloring charts. What we call measure-based coloring charts, there are several of them available in CVOM today, is that the charts will automatically change color according to the current value of which is display. So typically here on the left-hand side, you can see that I've defined three colors: red, amber, and green, depending on the current value of my measure. And automatically the chart will change color when I refresh my document. So of course you define the number of ranges you want to show and the color of each of these ranges, but this is basically how measure-based coloring charts was working. We've also introduced speedometer charts. They're very similar to the gauge charts, except that this time there's no target. And for that, I mean, you can see that there's only one type of speedometer chart, but because of the customization settings available for this chart, you can make it look very different. I mean, the two examples you can see here, it's exactly the same charts using different settings. Then we've added the tile charts. Tile charts where we have two types of tile charts. Simple one, you can see on the left-hand side, and then one which is using a deviation. Deviation is a little arrow you can see next to the KPI value, which tells you the trend of the value, whether it increased or decreased compared to the previous value version. For both tile charts, again, there are many settings available, so you can really make them look whatever you want. There's a possibility to have a header and a footer. Here I've used the title and the current year in the header, then the target in the footer, but you can use whatever you want. The deviation, the tile chart with the deviation is a measure-based coloring chart, so it will change color according to the threshold you have defined. Then going forward, we've also added new tricks, new settings available in folder 2 SP4. First of all, the ability to define the colors of the borders in column and bar charts by data series. So when you have several data series on the same chart, you can define the border color for each of them. And same thing for the data labels. You can really match the font color of the data labels with the color of the line. That's what you can see on the right hand side, so that it makes your chart much easier to read. With little improvements, you can customize the total into a waterfall chart. You can call it whatever you want, and you can also have a flat category layout. This is when you use several dimensions on the chart. Usually you have a sort of a hierarchical layout. That's what used to be the case for every 4.x version of Webi, but in xi3.x there used to be a flat category layout, and then we introduced that flat category layout again in folder 2 SP4. Another setting, it's for the bar and column width. Previously, it was fully automatic, and since 4.2 SP4, you can decide yourself about the width of these columns and bar, make it fixed size, such as at the example in the middle, so very thin, or unlimited width, where such as the example on the right-hand side, where you get a sort of a staircase. Then in 4.2 SP5, we have introduced a new viewer, entirely a new viewer, HTML5 based, and it's for the Web Intelligence Interactive client. So it's fully interactive viewer. It's in HTML5, so with a very modern look. We've also changed the legend, or rather introduced. Sorry, I think I was cut. Okay, I'm back. Okay. A new type of legend for the measure-based coloring chart, where it's called the compact legend, and it's available as an option into the format chart settings. Now, in 4.2 SP6, so this is a preview of what's coming up next in 4.2 SP6, where we have some animation into the charts. So that's for the Web Intelligence Interactive client. Whenever you refresh your document, all the charts are animated into your document. This is an option that you can see here on the side. So you can decide to use it or not. Then come into 4.2 SP6 again. If I can move forward. Okay, two new charts in 4.2 SP6 that we are working on right now. Funnel chart here with an optional 3D look. You can make it flat too, and a pyramid chart. And the good thing about those two charts is that you can really decide how you want to sort the different layers of those charts. You can sort them obviously in increasing or decreasing order, but you can also have them completely unsorted, and it will be in the order of the data sets you have. All these are a preview of what we are working on. So I just want you to understand that if anything wrongs, if we find any issues or regressions due to these improvement we're making for the 2 SP6, then we'll take them out of the 4.2 SP6. So there's no commitment now on anything. Other improvements we're working on for 4.2 SP6, the ability to have overlapping columns in column charts, such as the example on you can see on the left-hand side. Okay, and several other improvements. First of all, we've introduced a new color palette again. That's the Fiori palette, SAP Fiori palette called Belize, and that's actually the palette which is used in SAP SAP Analytics Cloud, the same color palette. So you can have very similar charts on both tools with the same colors. We've also improved the default settings for all of charts. We now have the automatic charts title, such as the one you can see here, and the chart title is automatically built for you according to the feeding, the data feeding you have on your chart. We removed the legend when there's a single item in the legends. It's useless. You can have it, of course, if you want to, but by default it won't show up. We have changed the way the axes and the labels look to make the overall charts more modern, to make them look more modern. You can also manually change the scaling of the axis in waterfall charts, and remember the reverse legend order we introduced in 4.2 SP3 on a stacked column chart. It's now available in all XY charts as well as pie charts. So I'm done with the latest improvement in the chart engine.
Okay, so this brings us to our next poll. We'd love to know, besides Webi, what other SAP analytics tools are you using? And take a look at the list there. Select all that's apply. It could be Lumira, Analytics Cloud, or SAP Analytics Hub, Design Studios, or Crystal Reports. Give you a few seconds to fill out that information.
Really looks interesting. Lumira is up.
Yeah. And here are the results. We've got almost an even tie there between Lumira and Crystal Reports. 39% Design Studio and 9% of Analytics Cloud. And finally, Analytics Hub coming in at 4%. Thanks for your information. And next up, Pascal, we would love to know about customization and chart settings.
Thank you, Lisa. So next section on the different unknown customization settings. Okay, here we are. All right. First settings is one which is tricky to find because it's not actually in the format chart dialog box, but it's in the assign data dialog box. It's when you assign the data to the chart, that's where you can find these settings. And this is the format number, the way you want the number to show, to be displayed onto your chart. And here what I'm showing is an example where I want all the negative numbers to be in red. And to do that, I will go into the assign data, then format number, and that is where I will choose this specific format to display negative numbers on my chart. But then, what if I just want the values on the charts to be displayed in red, but not the ones on the value axis? Then for that one, you will need to go to the format chart this time, to go to the settings of the charts in format chart, and then specifically to the value axis settings. And that's where you will find the format number pattern you can define for the value axis. So I can make the value axis to stay in the same color, whatever whether they're negative or positive, and then have the red color just used for the values on the plot area. On the pie chart, you can also play with the way what you're going to display in each sector of the pie chart. You have the ability to display only a label or the value or both of them, and then even how you're going to display those values. You can have them in a single line or several lines, and you can define the symbol as a separator to start the way the data is going to be displayed, or at the end of the label, you can also display a specific symbol. Next one. Right, the color palette. You saw that in the previous slides that we've added several color palettes in our chart library, but you can also define your own color palette. And some customers don't know how to do this and don't even know that it is available. It's actually available since 4.1, so for quite a while now. And the way to do this is quite easy. You go to the color palette list, you click on custom. Here you choose any of the palettes you have available already into your document. Then you give it a new name, and then you can change the individually each color or the opacity of each of those colors to define your own color palette. Then everywhere into the document, this new palette will be available. Then next, not very well-known settings. The format individual data series. Again, this is something which is existing since 4.1, so it's not new, but it's not very well known, and it's because it's difficult to find. You need to actually click on the data point onto your chart or on the legend item if you have the legend displayed next to the chart. And here in the contextual menu, you have this format data series menu item, and using this item you can choose to custom the data series. So here on the left hand side you have line charts with 2 data series, and you want one of them to be displayed as a solid plane and the other one with dotted lines. And this is how you're going to do this. You click on the first any point of the first data series, then you can customize it, choose the color, the way it's going to be displayed, whether or not it will have data labels, and then you do the same thing with the other data series to customize it as well. So you can do that not only on line charts, but also on many other charts, and I'm going to show you that immediately. It's slow to come. Sorry, I don't seem to be able to move to the next slide. Oh, here we are. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
All right. So same thing, same menu on the column chart. Oh, and then okay, we went a bit too far this time. Right. Yeah. Now it's moving too fast. Sorry, it's a bit tricky to change it. All right, here we are back onto the column and the bar chart. So here you have different customization settings available for each of the data series. So this time you can define the color of the border or the color of the column itself. Okay, and then you have access to the data values as well. If you want to customize the pie chart, the data series on the pie chart, the benefit here is that each sector is considered as an individual data series. So for each of the sector, you can decide, for instance, you can pick a custom color, or choose to display the data label whether inside or outside the pie sector, depending on whether or not you have enough room to fit this data label into the sector. On the bubble charts, it's like with the pie chart. Each bubble is considered as an individual data series. So you can, here on this example, you can see I have 2 bubbles on top of each other, one for New York State, the other one for California. And if I want to show that, then I will choose to show the label of New York on inside the bubble, and then California outside the bubble. So this way I can show there are really 2 bubbles on that chart which are on top of each other. Another settings which is not very well known, which is very useful, is that it's to freeze the chart colors. Usually in Webi, the chart colors are automatically assigned to the data. And the way it works, it's fairly easy to understand. You have a data set, and the first data into that data set is assigned the first color in the color palette, the second data, the second color in the color palette, etc. But whenever you refresh a document and one of these data disappear from the data set, then it's the colors are going to shift into your chart. And you have an example here on the right hand side on the top, where 2010 has disappeared from the data set, and since green is the second color in the color palette, then it gets assigned to 2011, while before 2011 had the amber color. If you don't want that, and this is disturbing for the end user to see that happen. So if you don't want that to happen, what you can do is the first time you define the chart and you have all the data available into the chart, then you use this contextual menu again and to freeze all the colors. And this way, even if some of the data disappear after a refresh, then the color will stay the same. And that's what you can see here at the bottom on the right-hand side.
And this brings us to poll number 3. I was interested to know, besides business objects, what other analytic solutions might you be using in-house? And again, select all that apply. I know a lot of our customers are using Tableau and Power BI. We've also got Click, MicroStrategy, and anything else up there that is not listed. But go ahead, all the responses are coming in. We have a few more seconds on this to get your vote across, or click everything that applies. We find a lot of our customers actually using, some of them are using everything, a little bit of everything. So it looks like we've got pretty much all of the votes now. We'll close this out and publish those results up. We got a couple more still clicking. And here we go. And we've got, as we suspected, Tableau coming in as the top choice out there. Power BI, not too far behind. And other being on the third place there, and then Click and MicroStrategy as well. That's good information. And then coming up next with Pascal, I think there's some charts that maybe some people didn't know they could do within Web Intelligence. Maybe you can tell us about that.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to be a bit technical in the next slide. Some of these charts are easy to build and understand. Some others are more difficult, but I try to explain as best as I can. First of all, one thing you need to understand is that when you insert a chart into a Webi document, you got this insert chart dialog box where you have quite a large number of charts available in there, but they're not all available into that dialog box, because some of them you can build them just using some of the settings. So, and that's typically the case for the 3 charts you can see on the right hand side here. They're not available in the insert chart dialog box, but you define them using the measure properties settings. For each measure on the chart, you have what's called the region type and its default value. So typically, if I start with a column chart with 2 measures, so I get what you can see on the left-hand side with columns only, 2 different colors, because I've got two measures. But then I can decide for one of the chart or one of the series or the other one to, instead of using a default value, then use bars or lines or surface. And this is how you build this other combination of line and bar and surface chart that you can see on the right hand side. Another interesting settings to build charts which don't exist in standard in the library is the stacking setting you have available on the value axis category. If I start, for instance, with a dual axis column chart with region colors here, what you can see on the left hand side, and I want to stack the values, the year values, okay, according to each axis, then it's not available as a standard. There's no dual axis stack column chart available in the standard library, but you can build it from the settings just using the stacking settings here, and using when you say, okay, it's going to be a stock chart, then this is what you end up with on the right hand side. So exactly what you are looking for. Other chart that you can build, we're going to see next. All right. So it's this time. This is. Oh, sorry. Went too fast. This is a tree map chart. Okay, tree map chart is traditionally a measure-based coloring chart, meaning that the color of each box into the tree map chart will change according to the value of the measure you've selected into for this chart. But sometimes you don't want to do that. You want to reuse the same color for every similar value. So here I decided to make my chart easier to read with the help of the color, so that 2011, 2010, and 2009 will always use the same color across this tree map chart. And the way to do this is fairly easy. You need to use a formula where you define, depending on the value of year, which is the value I'm using here, then you define just a simple value, 5, 10, 20, whatever you want, and then automatically the tree map chart this way will use fixed colors instead of the automatically assigned color according to the value of the measure. Another one you can build here. This is actually an important issue. I want you to really understand clearly. When you put a chart into a section, then because by default the value axis of the chart is set to automatic value, the maximum value of the value axis. Then if you don't pay attention, then all the charts will more or less look the same across all the section instances. And this is what you can see on the left hand side is here. For California and Colorado, if you have a quick look on the charts, they look very similar. But then if you have a close look on the value axis on the left hand side, you can see they're very different. One of them goes up to 20,000, while the other one at the bottom for Colorado goes up to 5,000 only. So the values are really different. And the way to make them look different is you have to use a formula again, and then use the fixed value for the maximum of the value axis, and use a formula, the maximum value you get actually across all the measure for all the value of the dimension you're using on that chart, and then you use that as a maximum on the value axis. Then here you have a Pareto chart. Pareto charts are sometimes used. You can find them on the internet on some different websites, and it's not available in standard in the CVOM chart library. But you can easily build one with the formula language, the Webi formula language, and the different settings available in our chart library. So the Pareto chart is based on a dual axis combined column and line chart. Okay, what you can going to do to build that Pareto chart, you're going to hide the secondary axis, which is usually on the right hand side, and that's the axis for the line here, and then use a formula to draw a line. The formula is fairly easy. It's just a running sum on the value you want to display on that line. Okay, for all the value of the dimension used on the category axis, here it is state. All the examples I'm using here, you can reproduce them easily with eFashion, the sample universe we're providing in Web Intelligence. And then you just sort the categories into a descending order on that chart, and then here you go. You have your Pareto chart, and so Pareto charts are really good to see how much each of the category participate to the overall value you want to show on the chart. Typically here you can see that with the three first states, Texas, New York, and California, you get 69% of the overall values. So that's a good chart for that. Another chart that sometimes you like to build, but it's not available in standard in Webi, is a histogram chart. So that one is a bit more difficult to build, but you can make it. It's based on the column chart and the new settings we've implemented in 4.2 SP4, where you can decide to have unlimited width for the columns on your chart. Here you use this unlimited width, and then you just have a white border around the columns, so you can really see the difference between each column. Okay, and you're going to in the histogram, what you do, the measure is usually a count. So here I've used a city, and I'm counting cities with the revenue per city. And then the category is based on this formula. It's actually a string you're building out of the city revenue, while the city revenue, what I want to show here, is the overall sales revenue for each individual city. And then when I'm building this string, on the category axis, okay, I need to format the city revenue, the numbers, into strings. I'm using here some special format to make it nice, such as the minus here and the millions of dollars as a currency, and this is what you're going to use in your category then. Next one is butterfly chart. So we use a little trick here, and this little trick will work only if you don't have any negative values into your data set. The trick is just to use one of the of the measure to use negative numbers of this measure. Here I have sales margin, which is a negative value of margin. I'm showing here on the butterfly chart the sales revenue versus the sales margin across the zero axis you can see here. And then you use a custom format to make sure that those negative values don't show as actually negative, because they are not. So then you just need to sort the measure once you're done with that, and you have a nice butterfly chart here that you can have in your Webi documents. A strip plot chart. Strip plot chart is something you can find sometimes, and to show the distribution of value. You can see that in the example here that most of the values you have into your document, they're distributed around between 0 and roughly 15,000, with the two outliers at around 30,000 and 65,000. And to build that kind of chart in Webi, you need to build a bubble chart, and with some constant value for the value axis too, and the bubble width. Actually, I used 0 and 1, which are constant here, but you can use any other number as long as they are constant. You also use monocolor bubbles. So when you go to the format chart for the bubbles, then you click on the monocolor settings for the bubble. Then you play with the transparency. You add the white border. So this way you make sure that it's fairly visible that you have many bubbles on top of each other when they're concentrated in the same area of the chart. You use a scale for the bubble which is not too large, not too narrow, so they can it can be easily seen. And then you have a fixed scale axis which is hidden. You don't need to show the axis around 0, with a minimum of 1, maximum of minimum minus 1, sorry, and maximum of +1. And this is how you build a strip plot chart into Webi. Another chart you can use, and or you can build into Webi. It's a mix of stacked column chart and line chart. When, for instance, you want to show a target onto a stacked column chart, and the way to do that is to build a dual axis column chart, hide the secondary axis, because it is similar to the primary axis, so you don't need to show the secondary one. And then you play again with the stacking settings, but this time, instead of using the star chart, you use the globally stacked chart. Okay, so this way you have all the value in a stack chart that you stack here, the Western, Central, Eastern review, I call the way I call them. And then on the second axis, you just put the fourth measure, the global target that you want to see. Okay. Another kind of a stack chart with a line chart is a stack column chart with a total. Here we use another trick. It's actually very similar to the previous chart, sorry, except that this time the line opacity is set to 0. So the total is actually a line chart, which is displayed on top of the stacked column, but because the line is opacity set to 0, then we don't see the line, and all what we can see are the data labels of that line chart. We've also chosen not to display the markers, so you really see the data labels and nothing more. Another one, and that's the last one I'm going to show you today, is a bullet chart next to a table. And for this one, we're using several web intelligence elements. We have, first of all, a cross table, like you can see here on the left-hand side, where we have no top header and a fixed cell width and height. So that it's helpful for the bar chart that we are going to use next to it. Then the cross table is set into a section, and in that section we remove the header cell and we remove all the padding. So it's actually, what you can see here is not a single cross table, but several cross table in every instance of the sections where we've defined on state here. Okay, and then next to each of these cross table, which has a single value because the section is built on the same axis than the cross table, the state axis in that example. Then we have this stacked bar chart with the measure we want to display, and the size of the bar chart is defined equal to the size of the cells of the cross table. And this is how we end up with a bullet chart, which is actually made of section, a cross table, and a stacked bar chart all together. So this is it for this presentation, and to conclude this presentation, the message I wanted to convey to you is that the chart library, the chart engine into Webi is really a powerful part of web intelligence. And when you mix the many different settings you have available for every chart together with the Webi formula language, then you end up with something really powerful, and which we can really change the look and feel of your reports, your Webi documents, and make them to have a better impact to the people who are going to consume those documents. So take the time to experiment with Webi charts and play with the different settings, and you see you can get really nice ones. Thank you very much for your attention. I think now we can go through the questions.
Yep. I'm going to launch the final poll really quick, and then we'll go to the Q&A session. Today we did want to make sure that we are delivering the content that you want. We did team up with Pascal, our product guru. So I'd love to know your feedback on what you thought of the presentation today. We'll give that a few more seconds, and then we'll turn that back over to Pascal for Q&A and to Nathan to finish up this particular session. But looks like I've got most of the votes. 5 more seconds here. And here we go. That's great feedback. Looks like a lot of you learned some new things, and that this was an overall success as far as the information that we shared with you. So I will pass this back over to Pascal and Nathan to finish up with the Q&A session.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at questions here, and Alan, they're on the West Coast. Yes, there will be a recording available for you. And let's see. Here's one for you, Pascal. Do the maps have call outs?
Sorry, call outs?
Yeah, Paul Lim, if you've got anything extra that you can add to that, feel free. But yeah, the question is, do the maps have callouts?
So yes, can you explain what you mean by that? Pop-up. Sorry, I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second question here. Any plans to add zip code to the geo mapping?
Not at the moment. Regarding the geomaps, what we are trying to do right now, we're working on it, is to improve the coverage of the geomaps and also update the content, because some of the content is outdated, and so we want to update that.
Excellent. Okay, I think Paul actually did add a little second piece to it. So, or pop-up tooltips for each pie chart or colored state.
Oh, they are available already. When you mouse over the charts, whether this is a geomap or any column chart or whatever, then you usually have a pop out, what we call a tooltip internally, which tells you the values you're hovering over. If there's anything missing in these tooltips, something you'd like to see, then please let us know.
Absolutely. Here's another good question. Is it possible to set the default palette color set in admin, or is that on a user level only set manually for each report, or something you would have to do with shared elements?
Right. So you're talking about the custom palette, right?
Yes.
Yeah, custom palette at the moment, it's defined by document, okay? So whenever you define a custom palette, it's available everywhere into the document, okay? It's not available yet through the shared element. That's something missing, a feature, an improvement which is missing, and it's high priority in our backlog. I hope we'll be able to provide that very soon. Otherwise, the way to share a custom palette today is it's a bit it's not a very nice way, but it's a workaround, is that you can just define it into document and make this document available to everybody else who wants to use the custom palette. But that's the only way to do it today.
Gotcha. So, yep, go ahead. Next question is, as CVOM engine is used across Webi and Crystal reports, are these chart updates also available in Crystal?
Usually, whenever we had new charts into the CVOM library, then it's up to the client tool to use them or not. So typically, there are charts available today in the CVOM library that Webi doesn't use, but which are used in Lumira. I'm thinking about some charts which are displayed in grid, like in multi-dimensional charts. And the reason why we don't use them today in Webi is simply because we have something similar with sections. So we don't need this sort of a grid or array of charts today, but we might implement them in the future.
Okay. Here's an interesting one. So are there any plans to make the location of the number formatting consistent? It's unintuitive and confusing to users to go to one place to format access numbers and all other formatting, and go to a completely different place to format data numbers.
Yeah, that's a good question, because yeah, it's the way it's been implemented. I don't know when. I mean, it's, as far as I know, it's always been like this, and I agree with you. It's not a very good choice. We as you know, I mean, we are working on the we provided the new Web Intelligence Interactive client, and it's in our plan to work also on the designer side, and to make it more intuitive, etc. So that really would be part of it if we're working on that, but we don't have any plan at the moment on that. I mean, it's in the backlog, but it's not planned yet.
All right, here's an interesting one. So we could see a different result in Webi for cascading filter between UNV and UNX in 4.2. Could you please let me know any difference in working for cascading filters for report based on UNV versus UNX?
Oh, I'm not an expert on that, so I won't be able to answer, but I think we've seen your questions. I've seen that question already, and I mean, if someone can take the name and the question, then I can try to find out internally who would be the best person to answer that.
Certainly, we can do that. We can follow up. And actually, I don't know that we're going to have time to go through all these questions, because we got a good amount here. But just so you know, you did an amazing job. You got a big congratulations. So slide 48, the max value for Axis, is precisely what I was going to ask about, or ask for an enhancement request. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Here we go. Are we going to share the PowerPoint or webinar recording? Yes, you will get the recording. How do you get smooth lines as opposed to angular?
Oh, there's yeah. So you're talking about the line chart and the way the lines are displayed into the line chart, right?
I believe that there wasn't any more to the question, but yes, I believe so.
Okay, there's a setting called the spline, which is sort of a smooth the transition between the points. We personally rarely use it because it makes the chart inaccurate. Sorry, but that's a way to do this.
And similarly, we've got a question about how is there a workaround to have curved lines in a line chart?
Curved line, it's that would be the same setting, I guess. If you have a really, but I'd be interested to see an example if you have one, to make sure that we are talking about the same thing.
Right. We can definitely have both of those for follow-up afterwards. So okay, here's good. One. Yes, go ahead. One feature commonly requested by users is to hide data points if the chart shows too many lines or bars. Is there a feature in 4.2 to hide data points on the chart using something like checkboxes I didn't see this feature or trick in 4.2 SP2, but not sure about the higher versions.
It's simply a filter on the chart. You can use an input control on the chart and then display only the bars and the column you're interested in, and it's fully interactive, even in reading mode.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And is that that's in 4.2 SP2?
Oh, it's always been available. I mean, the charts have always been interactive, and you could filter their content and sort them or rank it.
Gotcha. All right. So here's one on the geo mapping. Can maps use longitude and latitude?
Yes, they can. Not in the very first release in 4.2, but then it was implemented in 4.2 SP3. So you can actually insert as a data set containing the latitude and longitude, and then map those points onto a geomap. And the good thing about it is that you can actually merge this data set with another data set. So say you have a list of I don't know, sales points somewhere, and you use an Excel spreadsheet with the latitude longitude of these sales points, and then you can merge them into a web intelligence and then map everything onto a geomap.
All right, excellent. So we've got a bunch of questions, even past the ones that we've just talked about, but we're quickly getting over time, and I want to make sure that people find. So there are two handouts in the handout section of the GoToWebinar control panel that you are welcome to download. So if you're looking at upgrading to SP6 or SP5, or just looking for ways to help smooth out that process, save time, make it more reliable to users and IT alike. We've got a 10 steps to we can help with meeting that regulation among many others in the handout. And then in the chat box, we've put some very handy links to webinars coming up for SAP, as well as 360 Suite. And then we also are going to be at Sapphire. So unfortunately, Pascal won't be joining us, but Gregory, product manager, will be in Orlando next week, and we're doing a lunch on Wednesday. So please find us. I'm going to post a link in the chat there for being able to register to RSVP for lunch with the 360 Suite team, as well as customers and all of the people in the ecosystem around business objects. So there'll be SAP, there'll be 360 Suite customers, all mixing and talking about business objects, as well as having a nice lunch and getting outside and away from all the indoor activity that goes along with Sapphires. So please interact with us. We've got lots of different ways. Webi for Me group on LinkedIn is a great way to stay informed. So a lot of you have actually probably learned about this presentation in the Webi for Me group. Aha, ha, found control of the slides. Right. There we go. All right, so June 13th. So coming up next month, we've got business object sizing and performance testing. This is very pertinent if you're looking at honing in on how to fine-tune performance testing, as well as making sure that the sizing of your landscape is for maximum throughput to your users, as well as like I said, we're going to be doing lunch at Sapphire. So if you or any of the executives that are in your company are going to be attending, make sure that you reach out there in the chat and click through to RSVP, and we'll connect with you to give you a wristband so you got all the details to get into lunch. As I was mentioning, Webi for Me on LinkedIn. And thank you for your attention. We will follow up with Pascal to make sure that all the questions so the slide's going to be available as a follow-up to this.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Pascal, will you be able to give a PDF version of this presentation, or is it just the recording?
Oh, I can do a PDF and send it to you, so you can forward it to the attendees.
Perfect. All right, excellent.
Okay.
So there you go.
I'm going to do that right away. You're welcome.
Perfect. Pascal, that was awesome. Really appreciate it. Glad to see that, you know, of course, Webi is continuing with the banner of reporting king, and the visualizations are getting more powerful. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing everybody at future events and webinars.
Good. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.